So, protesters in Thailand are vowing to occupy state buildings until their government steps down. This is what we've been seeing in Bangkok, protests for the last 3 days now. Prime Minister Shinawatra has used an emergency law to tighten security around them in the capital, Bangkok. Tens of thousands of people have taken part in the biggest show of anger since her brother Shinawatra was toppled back in 2010. Those protests turned particularly violent. Just going to show you on the map where all this is happening. It's grown over the last 3 days. First, demonstrators occupied here, the government house, the Prime Minister's office, we should say. Then over at the Finance Ministry compound as well. Hundreds of people have been camped out there since Monday. And others as well have taken over the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Even with these 3 major spots all taken over, government says it will not use force. It's 4 in the afternoon now in Bangkok. We're going to check in with Florence Louis. Whereabouts are you, Florence, and what's been happening there?
Well, I'm at the Finance Ministry where protesters have been camped out since Monday night. Now, they've vowed not to leave, and it looks like they're settling in for the long haul. We've seen people coming in with provisions of water, food. There's a sort of party-like atmosphere where people are selling, if you have, what you could call protest paraphernalia. Now, the latest we have is that police have managed to obtain from the criminal court an arrest warrant for one of the top protest leaders, Mr. Suthep. We've tried to get a comment from Mr. Suthep. Now, he says he's vowed to stay on here at the Finance Ministry. He's at the Finance Ministry at this moment in a meeting. Now, he says he's planning to address protesters sometime later on Tuesday. We've also tried to get a comment from the police. Now, the police spokesman said they're going to try to come into the Finance Ministry in a couple of hours and persuade protesters to leave. Now, the protest has been growing, and in fact, protest leaders have said that they want to try and widen this movement to a nationwide movement. They're promising something big is going to happen on Wednesday, but they're not giving more details. But they have said that they will ask people to march to city halls across the country, nationwide, in a bid to topple this government.
The government response, Florence, has been interesting because they've vowed not to use force, even with all these government buildings being occupied or under siege.
That's right. Now, Prime Minister Shinawatra said today that she will not be using force, but what she has done is she's widened the areas which come under security law, where the Internal Security Act is in force. Now, what this security law does is it gives authorities the power to impose curfews, to seal off roads, and also to ban the use of electronic devices. But she has said that there will be no force. A lot of people here are worried that the protests could turn violent. They still remember the street protests of 2010 that ended after a bloody crackdown by the army, which saw more than 90 people killed. Now, no one wants to see a return to that, but the protesters here are determined that they want to see this government out. They're also trying other means. Now, at the moment, there's a 2-day debate, a no confidence motion that was tabled in Parliament to try and oust Prime Minister Shinawatra. But she's expected to win that vote easily because her party controls the majority in Parliament.